Very much, Josh. Now over to Josh Brown. I want to pull you into this conversation because you have made some comments that we aired on the show previously about Amazon, how it was poised for a breakout. And when that happens, watch out. The rest of the market is coming with it. So Amazon was higher by about 5% yesterday, higher again today. Is this breakout going to come as you had predicted?
Well, it looks as though it started. I wouldn't argue that every stock in the S&P 500 will rejoice and celebrate. But this was a mix of both technicals and fundamentals, tracking the stock, watching where resistance was. It was as clear as day. You don't have to be a technician, and I'm not a technician. I understand how to read a chart, but you didn't have to go overboard looking at this thing. You basically had a consolidation period of 12 months. And eventually, the buyers took on all of that supply. And once they did, we could point and we could say, oh, it's this government contract. That's why it broke out. It was breaking out anyway. That's just the peg. That's just the headline that we want to tack on there. And I think Apple's a similar story, probably not as clear-cut as Amazon, because Apple hadn't spent that much time consolidating. The most important thing here, and this is actually the main thing I want to say today, there's a difference between pulling forward demand versus pulling forward adoption. This is what a lot of people got wrong when they were playing that virus on, virus off game with the, quote, work from home stocks. What the pandemic did for Amazon is it pulled forward adoption, meaning it got people who could never imagine themselves ordering groceries, for example, online, starting in that habit. That doesn't mean there are no more transactions left to do. This is not like the housing bubble, pulled forward demand for houses, and then all of a sudden nobody needed a house anymore. This is not that. Pulling forward adoption is massively powerful in the second year, in the third year, in the fourth year. Now all you have to do is look at Amazon's Prime subscriptions. And of course, the pandemic pulled forward demand, but it also pulled forward adoption, and that is not going to stop. People that began using e-commerce and Amazon and AWS are not just going to stop because the pandemic's over. That's what a lot of people got wrong with these mega cap tech names, and now they're paying the price for it.
It's a good point. It's a good distinction, Josh. Any others that you can think of where the story's been a little misunderstood and Wall Street's been worried about pulling forward demand when it's actually more subscriptions and more recurring revenue?
I'm so glad you asked me that. The opposite is happening with autos. People think that this new golden era for cars because of the environment that we were in last year. Financing costs dropped through the floor. Everybody moved to the suburbs. Everybody was spending a lot more time driving rather than flying. And people think all of a sudden that we're entering a new era. We're not. We probably have already seen the peak in auto demand, especially trucks. Maybe not for electric vehicles. We'll leave those out. I think that's an example of the opposite. You can pull forward demand for autos. You can't pull forward adoption. People either need a car or they don't. So I would say that that's like the opposite version of that, and be careful.